Now, the federal government is getting ready to sue Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, and others over mortgage securities. According to the New York Times, the government will accuse the banks of misrepresenting the mortgage securities they put together and sold during the housing bubble. We are joined by Bloomberg contributing editor Bill Cohan. He's our resident expert on Goldman, and the author of Money and Power, How Goldman Sachs Came to Rule the World, also the author of House of Cards. Bill is with us on the phone from Rockport, Massachusetts. So, Bill, this story strikes me as interesting because obviously, you know, the FHFA, when I think of them, I think of the FHA, I think of Fannie and Freddie, and they played a big role in this housing crisis as well, right? I mean, they kind of helped kick it off by trying to push banks into lending money to people who couldn't take the loans.
Absolutely right, Matt. I mean, but now we're talking about a new Fannie and Freddie, one overseen by this conservatorship agency with the funny name that nobody's really focused on before, the Federal Housing Finance Agency. And basically what it's doing is, of course, is what, you know, every trustee of a bankrupt company should do, which is pursue every legal avenue open to it and pursue every legal asset that it can claim that it can make to benefit the, you know, essentially bankrupt companies. And that's basically what it's doing. It's sending this lawsuit out before the three-year, you know, its perception of a three-year statute of limitations runs, and it's going to file the lawsuit, if the New York Times is right, against all these firms and say, hey, you know, Hail Mary, I'm going to try to get as much from these guys as I possibly can because I've got two, you know, virtually bankrupt companies that have lost billions of dollars, and I want to recover as much of it as I can.
Well, and from one watchdog to another, we had Neil Barofsky, former TARP SIG or SIG TARP, on earlier, lauding the FHFA's move here and saying that this isn't about just aggressive lending. This isn't just about something that the CRA forced the banks into. This is about actual lying about the assets that you're selling here, right?
Well, you know, lying, of course, is always one of those strong words, but it's absolutely true. Neil is right, as he usually is, that there's widespread misrepresentation of the quality of the assets in these mortgage-backed securities. The mortgages packaged up here, we all know now, chapter and verse, of just how deceptive both the originator of these mortgages were, and many of which were owned in the end by investment banks who packaged up these mortgages into mortgage-backed securities, rated AAA by the rating agencies who were paid by the Wall Street firms. It became a daisy chain of just one parade of horrors after another, and it's absolutely correct that they should have to have their day in court. They're lucky they're not being sued criminally. They're lucky it's only a civil suit at this point, and you know, lots of people still wonder why there's been no criminal action against Wall Street and Wall Street firms for what happened here. And so the parade of civil litigation continues. It's, you know, September 1st, back to school. You had this suit, you had the settlement with, you know, Goldman about their mortgage servicing business yesterday. So, you know, clearly the federal government is back to work.
Hey, Bill, let me ask you, though, I mean, you obviously worked on Wall Street and got paid there, now have become kind of a critic of Wall Street. It's interesting to see the government, on the one hand, we bailed out the banks and now try and sort of push them to loan more money. On the other hand, you know, aggressively going after them for aggressive lending. It's sort of like, you know, feeding them with one hand and taking away with the other.
Well, I mean, part of you know, what's going on here is, Matt, that they can file these lawsuits. And they have sort of an obligation, given the conservatorship of what happened to Fannie and Freddie, to do so, a legal obligation. But, you know, there are many, like, you know, Gretchen Morgenson in her book, there are many who blame Fannie and Freddie directly, and they're political enablers. Jim Johnson or Barney Frank, she is quite a critic of those, of the agencies themselves. And so, you know, I'm sure that that's what's going to come out as part of any lawsuit or discussed as part of any settlement of a lawsuit. So, you know, this is far from over. This is one side in the battle filing a lawsuit that they're fairly obligated to do. But, you know, this is a situation where, you know, a success or blame has many fathers, and you know, this is one part of trying to get at that responsibility.
Got it. Hey, Bill, thanks so much for joining us. Bill Cohan there, Bloomberg View columnist and a Bloomberg Television contributing editor.